Hey, Woodsyke here. Hope everyone's doing okay. Just working on a pine knot. It's a massive pine knot as well. It's not your ordinary size. It's actually I call it a knot on steroids, more or less. But yeah, we're using a Milwaukee right angle die grinder, cordless. It works really well with this when you're using the kutzall extra coarse burrs, 1/4 inch style or 6 millimeter shank. Yeah, it's really a nice tool to have, and there's like really small amount of buildup on the burrs. Very minimal, if any at all. But yeah, I switched over to the smaller diameter Sabertooth spherical burr. It's a coarse burr itself, but not as coarse as the kutzall one, I think. But it has similar teeth pattern on the spear. Yeah, this pine knot's sitting inside of a Black and Decker table vise. It's not a heavy duty vise. It's just something that where you can clamp on objects and make sure they're secure. They're not moving around when you work on them. Pretty handy tool, and I got it from my friend Casey. He gave it to me a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it's just want to say thanks for that, Casey. Appreciate that. One of my subscribers and good friends in the local area. Good thing about working with vices to hold your pieces in, it frees up one of your hands, so you got two hands on the tool. You have extra uh, control, and also there's a little more safety factor there involved, as opposed to having your hand on one hand on the tool. It could just run away with you. But when you got both hands, like I've mentioned, it's a lot more safe and more controlled. There's a few times when I used the one hand on a tool, and it's like gets a little sketchy. The thing just kind of runs away on you, so you gotta watch out, especially with those high RPM rotary tools like the Dremels. And it depends also the burr you're using. If you're using like a really aggressive burr, like a Sabertooth or kutzall extreme, they could do some serious damage to your hands or stuff like that. So you gotta be kind of careful. But yeah, when I'm using the 1/4 inch stuff with the die grinder, definitely want to have both hands on that tool. So you want to have some safety in mind when you're doing that stuff. This pine knot, spent a little more time on it, and I sped it up just for time's sake. And it's a really nice knot. It doesn't have any serious cracks going through it, just more superficial cracks that don't penetrate into the knot itself, so it works out really well. Yeah, I spent hours on the sanding part on this thing with a steel wool and sandpaper, and I just got it super polished and smooth. And I used the finest grade steel wool, which is 0000, and it's almost like leaves like a glass finish on it, and it really shows up really nice in the pictures. Shows the wood grain really well too. You can use sandpaper too, but the steel wool has a the ability to mold with the shape of the object, so you can get a uniformly smooth surface with that, and it's just really nice stuff to have. You can buy it at your local hardware store. It's readily available. Just changing some positions here with the camera. Gotta zoom in here a little bit. The thing is, when I'm doing this video, I gotta lock in my subject, which is the pine knot, because I don't like to have things go out of focus when I put my hand in the view. Sometimes the camera goes ape shit. So it's good to lock down your camera as well. A little advice to anyone that's doing their stuff on YouTube. There's so many times when I've seen people get in the field of view and it just completely takes the focus away from the object. But if you lock it in with like a smartphone or iPhone, which I use, you just press your finger on the object in the frame, and it'll lock on there, and it just stays that way until you deselect it by just tapping on the screen. So yeah, it works out pretty well. And it also prevents like the color from changing, because if your hand goes over a light source, it changes the temperature of the light a little bit, so it's going to make your colors change as well, from a warm to cold or vice versa. But I'm just going to leave the top part of the head on there like that, like a natural hat, and then blend it in as much as I can, so feather it in. I'm not sure how I'm going to mount this, or if I would place it on a wall. I'd make a stand for this one because it's such a unique knot, and I just don't want to split it down the middle, which some people do that. So you can make a piece on the other side if you want. I just like to keep the knots whole. That's just some stickler of mine. I don't like. I've seen other people just like grind the back off and flatten it out so it can hang on a wall. That's fine and stuff. I mean, I've done that myself, but with a knot like this, it's such a large knot and it's like unique that I just like to keep it as is, and it would be nice to have a table mount, which I do make some mounts like that, and I'll show you guys some of those mounts here in the future, hopefully soon. With these bigger piece projects, I start off with a die grinder for the start off, rough out, and then switch over to these smaller tools like this tool shop from Harbor Freight. Your basic generic rotary tool. Some of those rotary tools are a little cheap though. You gotta be on the lookout for that, because like this one, I had to repair the switch on it because the rocker switch was like falling apart on the inside. I had to take it apart and reset the metal contact plates in there. It gets to be a pain in the butt, but the tool suddenly stopped working, and I thought, holy crap, I just bought this thing, you know? So I decided to investigate on my own. I don't get warranties on this stuff. It's a total ripoff when you do that. Plus, something like that, you could do it on your own, quick fix. As long as you got a multimeter tool, you can isolate down to the faulty component. And I found out the switch was not putting out any voltage to the rotor and stator. So that being said, if you get a warranty, that's fine if you don't have time to fix tools yourself. there's always that problem. You have to take the tool back and get an explanation. I'm sure it's pretty fast, but for the price of it, it's not. I don't think it's really worth it because these tools are pretty much durable, except for some of the flimsy components on them, and those are usually easily fixed, like the switches, for example. But other than that, I haven't had any other problems with it, like with the other components inside the tool itself. The brushes still work pretty well. I haven't replaced them yet. Yeah, these knots are easy to find in the forest. You just go walk around, look for a dead tree laying on the ground that's partially decomposed, that's breaking down. And these knots are the last remaining bits that are exposed usually on the surface. Sometimes you gotta route through the debris and find them. They're kind of underneath the pine needles or some other things. So, but a telltale sign of finding pine knots is when you see the dead tree laying horizontally on the ground. Usually you'll find a bunch of squirrel holes in there, like the pine squirrels like to burrow holes underneath the soft duff and stuff like that. And they store their pine cones and stuff in there for winter months. But yeah, you want to go into like a conifer forest. Usually, I usually go along the coast. There's a lot of forests up there along the Oregon coast in Northern California. Perfect place to find that stuff. Yeah, I'm using these diamond burrs. I covered them in a previous video. They're from Harbor Freight, and they come in a 10-pack. They're 1/4-inch diamond burrs, and they're on the fine side. They're perfect for finishing. You got multiple shapes, tips. You got this classic sphere. You got cones. Then you got other like cylindrical style tips, all for different, purposes. Yeah, I do a lot of polishing with some wire wool there, steel wool, here in the U.S. is what they call it, or UK, it's a wire wool. And yeah, it's like one of my favorite tools in the toolbox, to be honest. It takes a bit of work, but in the end, it's worth it. I try not to rely on too many mechanized tools for finishing stuff, polishing, unless I have to. But I usually finish off by hand, and it gives it a more organic look as opposed to something that's been run through a machine or something like that. But yeah, when you're using the power tools, there is a problem where your pieces look too manufactured, too possibly geometric in shape. But with these diamond burrs, you can eliminate that geometric shape by smoothing things out. And yeah, always hitting it up with the wire wool. Yeah, this is I'm just doing a little spin around, checking it out, see what needs to be done. And I'm constantly changing burrs all the time. And I don't like to use one type of burr throughout the whole process. I like to have my favorite burrs next to me, usually a spherical burr of some sort. Yeah, and also I got overhead lighting to get the shadows on there. It helps out your carving as well. See where you need to go. It's like, putting a spotlight on things. But a lot of times your lighting's going to be natural lighting or something coming through a window when you display it. So try to get it as best as you can with the overhead lighting like that, and you should be okay. Yeah, yeah, I'm going to do a quick video. The next video is going to be, should be coming out pretty soon, but it's just basically like a follow up of the keychain one I did the previous time before. I'm just going to go through like some small tips and ideas about how to make the keychain. And I use paracord with that. You don't have to necessarily use it as a keychain. You could use it as a hanging ornament on your doorknob or your windowsill somewhere. Anything that's got some kind of knob or stick sticking out of the wall, you can hang it. You can even use it as a Christmas tree ornament as you want, if you want. It's all up to you. But normally I'd like to give these things out around the holidays. And there's nothing like a homemade gift. I'm going to be giving a bunch of these away by year's end. So we're going to have a couple contests, giveaways, and stuff like that. Hopefully when I reach the 2,000 mark, which hopefully happens before then. But yeah, I hit that with some sandpaper as well. That's a good thing to get some material removed quicker than steel wool usually. Unless you're using a super coarse grade steel wool, it usually is comparable to sandpaper somewhat, but not totally. It takes a little more work with the wire wool. But also you got to be careful about the abrasiveness of those coarser style wire wool, because it does cause some irritation if it gets under the skin. Yeah, just working on some features around the face, like the mouth and the eyes, constantly modifying things. And it really pays to be tedious when you're doing this kind of detail work, because it makes your piece a lot more stand out. More idiosyncrasies for the piece too as well. It gives it a personality too as well. It's almost like you caught someone in freeze frame from real life. If you spend a lot of time out, you get the expressions down better. Yeah, I'm working on a new piece. It's going to be a female Native American. It's just going to be covering details on that one because I already got the rough out done. But stick around, it should be a really good video. And we'll talk to you all later. Thanks for stopping by. Take care.